Hi guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And if you are new, thank you so much for coming here today. So I'm going to be doing this tutorial on how I got to create this unit that you can see in the background. It's gonna be a 3-step process. So thank you so much for joining me and stay tuned. So in order to construct this unit, you're going to need a couple things. You're going to need a dome cap, some measuring tape, scissors, comb, scrunchies and clips, some thread, some needles, and a foam head. You don't really need the foam head, but you do need something to hold your pre-threaded needles. You're also going to need a tripod and a dome head and some T-pins, ladies. So here I'm showing you guys that I have a 22-inch dome head, and then I'm going to go ahead and place the dome cap. So the way I apply my dome caps is that there's 2 lines on the dome caps, and I usually just place them in between the 2 outer lines. Now I'm just going to use my measuring tape and just confirm the sizing of the circumference. That's what I'm doing right now. Yeah. So you guys can see it's 22 inches. Then I'm gonna go ahead and do the forehead to the nape, and that was 14 inches. Now I have my 4 lovely 613 bundles. I had to slow down for y'all because I provide this hair and y'all know got some lights. I had to, flaunt that baby. Okay. Look at that closure. Yes, it's a closure unit in 4 bundles. We were working with 24 inches, 22, 18, and 16 inches. So what you see me doing here is applying the closure. First, I apply the front of the closure, which is the straight line part of the closure. I apply it parallel to the dome cap, having it slightly pushed up in front of the dome cap. Then I extend the back of the closure, which is the curved parts of the closure, and I pin those down, having them flat and straight. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the result and what I'm talking about in a few after I pull up the hair and get it out of my way. So this is where you use your scrunchies and clips. You put your hair in a bun or you clip it to the side as long as it's not in your way. So I'm bunning it up, yup. Getting that ninja bun popping, then using my clips to take the little baby hairs out of the way. Okay, so look at how flat and straight they are. That's how you want to have your closure pinned down. Now we're moving on to threading the needle. So get your needle, get your thread. I use nylon thread. I feel like it's stronger and more durable. So yeah, I definitely suggest using nylon. So what I do is just place the thread through the hole, and then I just pull. Don't pull too much now, because you're gonna get a lot of tangles, and I know you don't want to be working with that. Those are not fun to work with. Just make sure it's a decent size, not too short, because you're going to keep having to rethread, and you don't want that either. So just make sure it's decent, and then go ahead and cut that off. Knot it. Watch me knot that. Okay. And then take the scissor and cut that excess thread off. So you go ahead and cut off the ends of that extra thread because you don't need all that thread. It sticks through your unit and it looks tacky, and you don't want that. Then I place my pre-threaded needles into my foam head because I don't want to keep going back and threading, so it helps with time. Now I'm moving on to sewing down the closure. What I do is I first stick the needle through the entire banding of the dome head, meaning the spandexy part You're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it. The ends are usually thicker, and I stick the needle all through it. Then I make sure it goes all the way to the knotted end of the needle, and then I go ahead and stick the needle right back into that same area, but this time I take the thread and go around the needle 3 times. Then I pull the needle through until it's knotted and secured. Please excuse the dog. It's my neighbor's dog just barking up like that. I can't do anything about it, so bear with me. I usually do that step at least 2 to 3 times in order to secure the closure or funnel or bundle or whatever down, because that's how I start and end every single thing that I apply onto my unit. So I moved closer, and now I'm repeating that step one more time for you guys to see what I'm doing. Sticking through the entire band, going around with the thread 3 times and pulling through to secure. I'm going to do it one last time because I usually do it 3 times. The first 3 I go around the needle 3 times with the thread, and the last time I usually go around it twice. Alright, so I realized that I accidentally cut out the 3rd time where I secured the beginning of the closure, but bear with me, I usually do it 3 times. Alright, so now we're moving on to sewing down the actual closure. So what I do is I stick the needle through the banding and the lace of the closure, and then I just pull it through the thread. Okay? I pull the stitch until it's flat, laid and secured before moving on to the next stitch. I'm stitching in a close stitch style in order for the frontal or the closure or whatever piece to be secured. Again, that's me pushing the needle through the thick band and the lace, and then placing the thread behind the needle and pulling the needle through.
Some bad, I should be a savage. Who would've thought it turned me to a savage? Rather be tied up with calls and not strings. Write my own checks like I write what I sing. Yeah. My wrist, stop watching. My neck is flossy. Make big deposits. My gloss is popping. You like my hair?
Alright, so after repeating that step all throughout the closure, you're about to be ready to close it off and secure it. So what do? The same steps from the beginning. What you is you just stick the needle through the banding in the lace, spin it again 3 times, and then pull it through, pulling. Baby girl, pull, come on. Okay, secured. And then you stick it again once more, sticking it, wrapping, pulling through. Okay, pulling, securing. Sticking it in one more time, securing that closure. You know, the closure is like so important. You do not want that to come off, so secure it. Okay, and then you also have to cut that piece underneath, so yeah, secure that thing. Then you go ahead and get your scissors and you just cut that thread off. Now look at that, just a close stitching. Okay, that's how you want to have it, closely stitched, because it's more secured. Okay, so now moving on to the bundles. I unravel my bundles and then I place my bundle where I want it to be placed and where I want it to be sewn down. The first piece I sew down is usually sewn in a semicircle format. I use my T-pins to set it up so that when I'm sewing down, the weft is not moving around and I'm getting a nice straight or, you know, in place line. It's clean, it's neat, and it's easier because you don't have to continue fighting with the weft. So I suggest you use your T-pins to place and then sew. Now that my weft is in place, I'm going to go ahead and do the first step that I did when starting the closure. I will stick my needle through the weft and then also the cap, but this time I'm not sticking it through the elastic band within the ends of the cap. I'm just sticking it through that first layer. So I'm doing that, going through and wrapping and then just sticking. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and continue stitching, and this time it doesn't have to be as close as the beginning, but you want it to be about the same spacing. So don't do no big gap and then a small gap. If you're gonna pick a medium gap, keep medium gapping, okay baby? So I continue that same stitch all around until I'm done with the bundle, and then I stick it through the weft again, stick it through that first layer of the cap, pull it through, repeat that a couple times, and then the difference here is I cut my weft. So I would probably just, close it once or twice and then cut it and then stitch it again in a closing stitch to make sure that it's secured. And if you have good bundles, cutting your weft should not be a problem. I just do it because it helps with having a flat unit. You know how we all want those flat and laid and slayed and whatever units, that. And then I just put that foldage in because that happens. Your dome cap might fall off. That means, baby girl, you didn't push it down well, and I hadn't, so I went ahead and I pushed it down. What you saw me doing there was doubling my weft. So now that my weft is doubled, I stick my needle through the doubled weft first, then stick it through the first layer of the cap. I usually do this because it's helpful since the weft is doubled, it's thicker. So I just do it in hand and then place it. And I do the opening stitch, the same stitch that I used to close, to open. And then I use my T-pins to set the weft in place for stitching. And after the first row, I usually place my weft in a upside down U manner. I learned this from, I believe it was I Am Erica J or Young Africana, but it helps with keeping my units flat, and that's what I love to do.
Okay, now you see me closing
off the doubled weft. So I did the first closing stitch and then I cut off the doubled weft, because like I said, I cut my weft, and then I continued with the closing stitches. Now I'm going to follow up with 2 more closing stitches, and that's about it. So continue those steps all throughout the unit, and you will have a beautiful unit in no time. And again, you continue with the same stitching pattern, okay baby girl? You do not want to have no big gaps and then no small gaps. Stick to the same medium gaps that you started with.
I get in my feelings, yeah. I start reminiscing, yeah. Next time around, fuck, I want it to be different, yeah. Waiting on a sign, guess it's time.
Alright, so what if now you're stitching, and then you come across a problem? There's not enough thread to finish up that row. So you just do a closing stitch with that same needle, and then you stick it somewhere to get it out of your way. Take a new threaded needle, and you do an opening stitch wherever you closed that last stitch at. So you're sticking it through wherever you closed it off, and then you're doing an opening stitch. So you put it through and you put it through again, and you wrap the thread around the needle, and then since you're secured, you can continue stitching like nothing ever happened.
Yes, sir. Check. We used to lay up and then stay up, had sex and then blow dang. I shouldn't have played no games with you, just leveled up my brain. Last time I saw you, we ain't speak, that was strange. Guess there's nothing I could do, man, it's true. Exes changed, yeah. Hey, guess you changed for the better. I know you know how to make me jealous. I was never loyal, let you tell it, yo, but I'm ready to fix it if you ready.
Alright, so you're sewing again, and then you run into the same short thread issue. But we know what to do this time, right? Okay, so take a new threaded needle, stick it into the same area where you closed off the last thread at, and then pull it through, make sure that it's secured, and then you go ahead, stick it through again, and do a opening stitch. Just had to repeat that in case somebody missed it, and you know, you don't want to really go back.
Fuck you over, and again the truth is I ain't really here to start problems. Girl, I swear to God, them hoes can't never say they got.
Alright, so now as you can see, I'm up to the crown area, and I'm no longer doing the upside down U that I was doing. I'm now just following the shape of the closure.
Make you wanna strip for them dollars. Nah, girl, I got a job for you. Swear to God, I could do a lot for you. Saw you strolling through the campus, I had to stop for you. I was scrolling.
Alright, so in a few you're gonna see me flip up some hair and then fill in the gap with some extra pieces of hair that I have. I do this because after you part a closure, most of the hair goes to the sides, and you really don't want many gaps in the back, so I just fill it up as much as I can so it's seamless. Alright, so I do this sometimes. I don't always do it because of the fact that it's not always needed. Sometimes I just closely stitch the wefts. Alright, so now what you see me doing is starting off that last piece that's gonna be connected to the closure. Well, it's not actually connected to the closure, it's just stitched really close to the closure. And I started and ended the same way that I would start in a frontal closure or a regular weft. So yeah, it's the same process. And I don't connect it to the closure because of the fact that closures are replaceable. So again, I just close and restitch. Okay, so after cutting that piece of thread off, I went back and did what I did earlier with that piece of hair. I sewed it down to ensure that it was seamless and to eliminate the gap between the closure and the tracks. Alright ladies, we are almost at the finish line. We are just finishing up the last final stitch, and you are almost there, babies. Alright, so now that you are done, what you're gonna do is remove your clips because you ain't got no more hair to be putting out your way because you are done. Let her down, comb her, brush her, do whatever you gotta do, and then get ready for the last final step. Alright, so the last step is where you remove the extra layer of dome cap because you don't need it, because now we need to see that lace, baby. This is where you get the scalp effect, okay? So just showing you guys the inside of the unit. Look at that, all clean, okay? Follow my steps and you will get just that, okay? Alright, so now just, you see that little pocket? What you're gonna do is cut the dome cap part off so the lace can become see-through. So when you're doing this part, please be careful. I did this really slowly, but you know, I had to speed it up because this time thing was too much. So take your time, just cut as close as possible to the stitch, but not so close that it cuts the stitch. You do not want to mess up on this. I'm telling you, you don't. But yeah. Alright, so after cutting off the extra piece of dome, you are now ready to style your unit. What I'm doing here is just cleaning up the cut because I like my work to be neat, and this is a customer's unit, so I would want my best work out there. So yeah, look at her, ready to go. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with me today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and watch out for more. Thank you.